Even as our circulation disappears in the present terminal phase of this implementation of usury, one faction of pretended experts cries out that our problems are a consequence of inflation. They advocate elevated rates of usury to restrain the circulation, claiming likewise without qualification that the value of the false dollar is being destroyed by printing money out of thin air. They only dream that a return to the gold standard will save us, while yet advocating the further conflicting proposition that further purportedly competing banks will more responsibly adhere to the very higher rates of interest which can only destroy us all the faster. We can see that a valid accounting for the mechanics of the imposed system proves all this is the worst kind of nonsense. We suffer an ever-increasing deflationary aspect and thus a scarcity of currency in the terminal phases of such a system. We are not suffering an inflated circulation simply because we are seeing ever greater introductions of circulation than ever. Why not? To account for only what is coming into circulation is to take no account whatever for what is obligated to go out and what is being paid out of circulation in the way of servicing this ever-escalating sum of debt. And so, of course, if these people understood this, they would identify the problem as interest versus merely the narrow-minded half-observation of only what is coming into circulation. As our model has shown us, the inherent deflationary aspect of such a currency decreases the circulation at an ever greater rate. And so it is actually necessary to reborrow currency back into circulation at just such ever-escalating rates, even if we are to keep pace with deflation to maintain the circulation. But as our model of usury illustrates, these greater introductions of circulation than ever not only may fail, but will fail to keep pace with the ever greater debt service we are paying out of the general circulation. Ultimately, the need to replenish the circulation can only finally exceed our creditworthiness at the utter failure just ahead. Know then, on the contrary, and as our model unequivocally illustrates, we are suffering not only a scarcity of vital circulation, but increasing dedication of that circulation to servicing debt versus sustaining industry. Not only is money disappearing, all of it is dedicated to servicing debt, and tomorrow even more will be dedicated to servicing debt. Our model shows furthermore then that what devalues this obfuscated currency across its lifespan are the twin evils of irreversible, escalating multiplication of debt and this very dedication of ever more of the circulation to servicing debt versus commerce. As industry is made to bear the burden of this escalating debt, it must increase its ultimate charges to its markets to maintain margins of solubility, which are perpetually eroded to an ever greater degree by the multiplication of debt. Thus, more of every dollar spent goes to exploitation and less to the products of our industry. This is the sole systemic cause of devaluation of the currency. The gold standard, of course, never can and never will save us from these things. It prevents us from issuing circulations exceeding monetary reserves, as potential vast growth of industry obviously will call for. It cannot arrest multiplication of debt by usury because the gold standard has no power whatever to do so. Nor can the gold standard provide consistent value if various extents of industry compete for a finite circulation which cannot sustain industry of any and every possible extent. Yet, without qualification, certain pretended authorities cry out for restriction of the circulation. Let us examine the consequences of this proposition by jumping forward in our original model to year 12 and the onset of the terminal phase. Let's reduce the circulation now from the original 100 units to 90 and turn our model loose to examine the consequences. So here, of course, we see that owing to our unwarranted idea we can better serve our purposes under a restricted circulation bearing the weight of an inherently escalated sum of debt, we have just reduced the maximum practical lifespan of the original 12.5% model from 15 years to 14. We slew our own industry even faster.